Ugh, all right. So, UH is playing football, by the way. I was watching that shit whenever I came home.
Yeah, I have a DirecTV. I was watching the game, but honestly, dude, U of H has been they've been since ever since Tom Herman like left, it's all gone downhill. But Tom Herman was an incredible coach, man.
Oh yeah, dude.
Were you on campus when that was going on?
Nah, dude. Unfortunately.
Oh my god, dude! Like it was like insane to be at that point. It was insane to be a UH student. Like we like the tailgates were insane. Like I would get so freaking lit, and it was like a lot of fun. And people were we're starting to have more like more school pride. You know, it's like you would actually see people walking around with like UH shirts and stuff.
Yeah,
Because like one thing that like kind of pisses me off is like you're walking around and you see people like that are like have like A&M shirts or like UT shirts. It's like you're at U of H, man. Have some respect. This is your school.
dude. So I kinda do that sort of. So I have basketball shorts that have the Texas logo on it, but I've had those basketball shorts though since high school, and that's literally like the only thing I could wear whenever it's so hot outside.
Bitch boy,
Uh,
have some school spirit, man. No,
dude.
I hear you. I
Yeah.
hear you. Like I still like watching SEC football, but I'm just saying, like people like are kind of embarrassed. Like, yeah, I go to U of H. Like, no, man, UH is a good school. Like,
Hell yeah, man.
like my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, she's like an Aggie, and like though that's a freaking cult, dude.
Uh huh. They're also terrible fucking drivers too. Straight up,
Yeah.
man.
So like have you thought about like starting an Instagram page?
No, but you know what? If you want to start one and get it going, dude, by all means.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I actually think about doing um, that's a see about doing that.
So,
I'll make it.
I guess let's go ahead and let's start off with the big stuff that didn't happen yesterday, but that did happen this week with you, brother. So,
Oh,
went
yeah.
ahead and told the feds to buzz off, right?
I told them, dude. Like, so, like, I was just. So what had happened was like the week before they were like, you know what, Ray, we need you to be scanning more driver's licenses and you can't like what really tipped the like broke the camel's back was like I sold a Glock 48 to this cop and he forgot to check no on one of his answers on the 4473 and like yeah, granted that's a big deal, right? But
Yeah,
like just call him in and have him have him sign it. But the way they made it seem is like, you know what, Ray, if this would have been caught, we would have been fined and we could have lost our jobs over this. I was like, you know what, man, you guys have not been through an ATF audit. I've been through an ATF audit, and I can tell you that it's not that big of a deal if I miss one check mark. Like, the really big deals are like, why are these Knicks numbers like not matching to what we
yeah,
have? Like, why are these Knicks numbers fabricated? Where are these guns? Like that's what they're looking for. They're
yeah,
looking for like the ATF is first of all, ATF has so many different gun shops to go through and not just gun shops but FFL dealers.
yeah,
And how many FFL dealers are out there? Like supposedly more than McDonald's, but it's just whatever. But anyway, so like I contemplated it and I spoke to my wife and um I started going on websites like online, see what was hiring. I applied to um, applied to
a
like
certain gun shop in the Houston area.
yeah, I applied to a certain gun shop and they gave me a call back like 2 days after I applied. I interviewed last Friday and then this week I was just doing training with them. And it's so far it's a pretty chill gun shop. Like actually I trained at their main location and then they have another one in east part of town and like the main gun shop, like they have like machine guns, they have like a whole bunch of suppressors. But at this gun shop that I have at the range, they only have suppressed items, which is still pretty fun.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
like they have like suppressed AKs, they have some suppressed Daniel defenses, but it's a pretty small shop. Like honestly, it's like on sales. There's two managers and there's one range girl, and that's it. So it's just like four people for the entire day,
Oh, wow.
and like 99% of the business that's being done is like FFL transfers, and it's stupid cheap. It's like $20 to get an FFL transfer there.
Dude, honestly, like that's pretty good. Honestly, for like a for a local gun shop, that's you're doing pretty good there. Like the place close to my house that I told you about, they did $25 transfers, and then that one place that has ammo, well, they make ammo now essentially. They did $15 transfers. I had my AR sent there,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and then so going back on just license holders for FFLs. Um, Whenever I picked up my Glock 19 this week, I picked it up at a storage unit where they operate out of.
I've heard about those places. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So would you go with the Gen 4?
Nah, I got a Gen 5 of front serrations, man.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
So
And it pairs
honestly,
nicely with my Surefire too. So,
oh, you got an X300?
yeah, dude, I told you about it. Whenever
Yeah,
I
I
was
think.
still at like back in June or July, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right, dude. Glock 19 front serrations with X300. That's actually really sexy, dude.
Dude, yeah.
Front serrations 19. Yeah, that's nice, dude. I mean, like you can go the whole Roland route, but um, the only problem you're gonna have with shooting that 19 and that X300 is that you're gonna get a buildup of lead res like powder burns on the top of the flashlight, but just clean it after you shoot it.
Yeah, I
Don't.
heard like I heard the best way to get rid of those is just take like some like eraser to it and just kind of
Yeah,
rub it off.
that's what I've seen done like on Instagram. Yeah, they just do that. But so like I know like we're like anti 1911 and fuzz and stuff like that.
Well,
But
not necessarily anti 1911, but just, anti FUDs who think that they should only carry a 1911.
also like I was at the shop that I'm working at. They have a Springfield TRP operator in 45. It's like $1,600, but with my discount, it's still pretty pricey. But it's like I would seriously consider buying a Springfield operator for the price.
Yeah,
It's got super nice front serrations, the G10 grips, uh, the rail to put like a light and the adjustable back sights. It's honestly a very good looking weapon. I'm very much contemplating like should I drop over a grand on a 1911?
looks good. I just pulled a picture. It looks pretty good, Ray.
Yeah, the TRPs are nice, man. They really are nice. I
Probably
mean,
the
for
only
like
good thing left from Springfield.
right? No, actually, they released a 10 millimeter model of that one. It's
Yeah,
it's
that
like
I saw that on the searches on Google. So I guess 45 and 10 are probably what's gonna be most popular out of that.
yeah, honestly, 10 millimeter. Like everybody talks about how big game and how it can take down bear, but to be honest with you, I seriously doubt that. I read an article um, about these guides that were out. Like there are two different sides to it. Like one guy was like an old school revolver. He's like, yeah, 10 millimeter is not going to stop a grizzly bear. You know, and the guy's like, just use a 44, like a 464 Conceal or like a 45 long Colt. And then this one new guy was like, yeah, no, 10 millimeter will do it, but you're still gonna shoot the guy a lot. And they both told the story about this one dude. I think he was guiding or he was out hunting in like New Mexico, and he got attacked by a black bear. The black bears are like half the size of a brown bear,
Uh-huh.
and his weapon jammed, and he had a Glock, which I think the 40 is the 10 millimeter, right?
Yeah, the Glock Model 40 is a long slide 10.
Yeah, so he was shooting a 40 and like it jammed on him, and then apparently I have to look at the article. Apparently he like they had to cut um they had to cut him out like the jaws for like um like they had to use him they had to cut it out. They had to cut the bear's jaws off. So
Oh shit.
the magazine's on Outdoor Life, and it's like wheel gun wheel gun versus semi-auto, and it's it's like the older guys like the idea of using a semi-auto and cartridge for design for self-defense against human is ballistic folly. I know everybody thinks they are going to go John Wick on a bear and overwhelm him with a multitude of bullets, but that ignores the second bear truth. Bear attacks happen very fast. You may get one or two shots, and if you're lucky, before he is chewing on your skull like an doer. That's actually very true.
Yeah.
Like you never can plan for anything like that. Um, so this is another guy in New Mexico failed to stop a black bear quickly enough with his 10 millimeter. Even with multiple hits, the bear was gnawing on him when he tried a headshot. The gun jammed. He cleared the jam, but the bear continued to die on his leg, and he finally killed the Bruin. Rescuers had to cut the bear's jaws off his leg.
Oof.
That's nasty.
That's gnarly, dude. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and it's a black bear is not the size of a brown bear. I mean, brown bears are like over 1,000 pounds. I got 1,200 pounds, but it's better than nothing for sure. A
Oh
10
yeah.
millimeter better than nothing. But no, they're actually talking. The interesting thing about talking about is they're talking about how um, uh, they're talking about how it's a good brand, but the price is good. But they also talk about how uh, you shouldn't use hollow points. You just use ball ammo because the way a bear is a very sinewy, very muscular fiber. Like their muscle fibers are very tough, so just use
Yeah, I could see that.
that's interesting.
Like honestly, for people to carry like Glock 20s, I mean, I guess that's where the hollow point ammo could come into play for just self defense. But I think like honestly, I think anything for hunting, like just go with ball ammo because it's gonna be just as effective because obviously, as you just said, the muscle structures between say like a bear for example or a moose, it's gonna be extremely different than for a human. So I think at that point, I mean, honestly, because I know Military Arms Channel, he showcased this one round from Underwood, which is a 10 millimeter ammo, and it's supposed to have wicked velocities. I'm talking like 1,700 feet per second, I believe,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
pretty fast.
insane. Yeah, that's
That's
insane for 10 millimeter, dude. Like you're almost into rifle speeds at that point.
at that point you're hitting rifle speeds. But does it have what's the grain weight on a 10 millimeter?
That's a
Like,
good
can you?
question. I would assume because of the larger casing, between that and 40 Smith& and Wesson, I would say over 160 grains for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
but definitely probably not over 200 unless if it was a self-defense offering. I would say. I don't know honestly.
yeah. But I mean, you really can't come like if we're talking about like bear guns, you can't ignore the fact that like a 500 Smith and Wesson has like 440 grains. You know, that's just.
Oh yeah,
But I mean, how many people are actually going to buy a 500 Smith and Wesson? You know,
not a whole lot of people.
no. And I think it's interesting. Um, so let's talk about EDC, man. What's on your EDC? Like, what did you EDC today?
For work,
Yeah,
basically the same thing that I did whenever I was working with you, man. I always have my multi-tool, my Leatherman Wave, and a little small flashlight from Olight. I forget what it's called. but essentially the flashlight though is rechargeable, and it has various types of lumen outputs. It has a maximum output of 1,000 lumens, and it lasts for
Yeah,
30 minutes on a full charge.
that thing is like I've seen your O light and it's ridiculously small.
Yeah,
It's super bright.
yeah,
It's like like my PP.
yeah,
It's
and
really
then
bright.
on the basic like output settings for like the lumens, I think the first setting is like either 100 or 200. The second is like 400 or 500, and then the last one's like 700 or 800.
Yeah,
And then it also has a strobe, even though the strobe really isn't like useful unless if you're trying to get like a dance party in. but
yeah,
uh, but besides that, besides like wallet, keys, phone, if this was like me, like going out to a place and not at work where I unfortunately cannot carry, I would also have at this time of the year my Glock 43 and a spare mag.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and my spare mag being a plus two, being 8 rounds with the Terran Tactical, basically.
Yeah, you got the
Uh,
Terran Tactical plate, right?
yeah, I got that like a few weeks after I had my 43. I also bought another mag whenever I was still over there as well. I would like to get a fourth mag, just because I have so many Glock 19 mags and Glock 17 mags. Like being able, Ray, like whenever I shot my 19 this week, like being able to bring a Glock 17 mag with me to the range, dude, that was so great. Like,
Yeah, like honestly, it's just nice. So
yeah,
have you thought about what you're gonna put on your like what you're gonna do your 19? Like honestly, I feel like you should stick stock like internals like triggers. Probably put like a ghost ink trigger connect like a ghost ink trigger bar or a connector,
yeah,
or like a ZEV connector.
yeah.
And
I told my friend already whenever I showed him my 19. He said that he really liked how Glock are including front serrations on certain Gen 5s.
yeah,
And I think about as far as I'll go for the moment, because I still want to shoot it with stock trigger and stock trigger spring and connector and all that jazz. I think about as far as I'll go is just obviously changing out the plastic sights. I've been looking at some Trijicon fiber sights, actually, some fiber optic sights.
really.
Yeah, because I was talking to one of my coworkers who's an instructor, and he says that for him personally, having a weapon mounted light is mandatory. It
Yeah.
is not an option. And he says that because of that, he feels that he could use a fiber optic sight instead of night sights uh, on his gun. And I kind of agree with that in a sense, because with fiber optic sights too, especially if you have good quality ones, like from Trijicon, like you can easily see that front sight post. The rear sight is blacked out, so essentially it's just you lining up that front sight with the notch on your rear sight.
Well, so like on the Sig 320, the Sig 320 Legion, they actually did Dawson Precision, and Dawson Precision, like their fiber optics actually like in the $60 to $70 range. So that's actually pretty affordable. I
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
mind. I think they're like yeah, they're like around $60 for like the like standard sites for your for like your fiber optic
Hmm.
sites. And the good thing is you can just always cut off a new piece.
Yeah.
Um, but honestly, I I don't want to buy another Glock, but the Glock 45 MOS is just it's aesthetically a nice gun.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that I'm saying that a Glock is aesthetically nice, like that's saying something that they're paying attention to what people want. People want front serrations, and an MOS model in the 45 platform. I think that's great. I really would like to go that route. You know,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I've still got some other things to. I've got some more knives to buy, man. Like I've
Oh,
already.
dude. So
So
let's talk about the knife that you've been carrying recently. Has it
so
been your Winkler, the Strider?
I I always rotate it out, but I have found that I actually prefer carrying a small fixed blade as opposed to a pocket knife. Like there's days where I actually won't even carry a pocket knife. I've been carrying my Winkler operator. That knife is freaking awesome. So like uh, Winkler knives for like those people who don't know, Winkler knives have been around for quite a long time, like well about the 80s. But Winkler knives, they make some really cool. Originally, the story goes Daniel Winkler was like a guy who liked to do like to dress up and do like the whole reenacting for like 18th century living and stuff like that, like the Mountain Men. Anyways, he got on and he made knives for like Last of the Mohicans and did a couple tomahawks. That's what he was known for. But now they rebranded like in the early 2000s as WK2 Winkler Knives 2, and now they solely focus on making knives for law enforcement and making knives for tier one guys. Like so, a lot of Green Berets carry Winklers. It's very like they love to talk about the fact that the SEAL Team Six carried Winkler axes, and the dude who murked Bin Laden was carrying an Emerson CQC six Model Six and a Winkler belt knife. Um, but the operator was designed by a SEAL, which it gets thrown around a lot. The whole Navy SEAL thing, like designed by a Navy SEAL or this and that. Like how many Navy SEALs are out there? But I really like this design. It's like a small fillet knife. Like when I first showed it to my wife, she was like, "You spent almost $400 on a steak knife." I'm like, it looks like a steak knife, but trust me, dude, this thing it does not operate like a steak knife. Like this thing is thick, but not thick enough to where it's nasty, like this, like bulky. What's really neat is like it actually tapers at the end, so like the tang actually tapers down and gets real thin at the end. And the one that I have has I think it's maple or no, not maple. I think it's cherry or oak. Hmm,
You gotta send
it's
me a
one.
picture of this because I haven't seen this. I don't believe.
I think so. I have to show it to you, but one thing that people are like don't realize like the thought that goes into it is like the sheath. What kind of sheath do you want? It's like, well, Winkler does amazing sheaths. It's like people are like, well, you should go Kydex, you should go leather, and Winkler's like, why not both? So it's like a three-layer sheath. It's like the first layer is suede, and then they wrap it with it's molded Kydex, and then they put a layer of leather over the Kydex. So what that suede does is that the Kydex obviously holds like a super firm retention, but if you would need to, draw your knife to where nobody can hear you, because like there's nothing more like it's like that you hear that the sound of a something coming out of a plastic Kydex sheath or a holster. It's very obvious. And G code holsters did that with like their incog. I think it's their incog holster.
Or how
That
about the
makes
ones that have the fuzz outside of it? Or
the fuzz inside.
oh, the fuzz inside. That's interesting.
Yeah. So like they're really so basically if you were to pull it out in a quiet scenario, nobody would hear it. So it's super cool, super comfortable. But
Yeah.
like I love Winkler knives. That's what I'm carrying EDC. I'm always carrying a Winkler EDC. Either that or I'm carrying like a Strider SMF. Um, Although Striders, they're kind of hard to come by. And there's quite a few people that hate Strider knives because supposedly the guy Mick Strider was like a stolen valor type dude. Personally, I don't care about that. I like the knives that he makes. If he's stolen valor, then that's his deal. That's his business. He'll have to. I mean, people get called out on that all the time.
Yeah.
But the guy makes some impressive knives, and either that or I'll carry like a zero tolerance. And today I was looking at my some Benchmates. I was like, I have not touched a Benchmade in a long time, just because I'm like kind of put those away. But that Benchmade Infidel, like that out the front switchblade, it's actually pretty nice. I wouldn't mind carrying a switchblade, but do I need one? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I've got a Chris Reeves on layaway with there's these guys out of Idaho. They're called Nordic Knives, and I probably bought about 7 knives from them, and they're great because I just called them up. They know what I like, and they do a pretty good job. Like their prices are very competitive, and they do layaways. Like that's honestly the only way I can afford to do knives because I mean it's like with guns, like you got to put them on layaway sometimes, but um, not a lot of places do knife layaways, you know. And the places that do are very expensive, but this place is like super well priced. So I'm actually thinking about adding a trauma kit to my EDC because we both work at ranges. And
Yeah, the good thing for me is there's literally one right next to me at the RSO station.
yeah,
There's this huge like case and it just has various types of things in it, like seals, tourniquets. Now, the one thing I really need to actually do is get medical training. And you may or may not know this, but the U of H actually put out an email. They were
yeah, I saw
offering
that.
active
Yeah,
shooter
yeah, yeah.
training, and I actually
That's pretty.
wanted to get in on it, but I failed to sign up in time. It filled up really fast, apparently. They were even
Yeah, so
offering like the stop the bleed training to like actually learn how to apply chest seals and tourniquets. Dude, I would have totally killed to go to that. No pun
honestly,
intended.
it's a very, very valid. Like that's a really good thing. Like applying chest seals and tourniquets. Like I sometimes carry a cat tourniquet at work. But like, so I was talking with this when I was working at the other job. I was talking with this our trauma nurse. Like I made the jokes like, please don't shoot yourself, and she's like, on the range, it's like, oh, she's like, I'm a trauma nurse. I was like, well, let me ask you this, like, what do you think about trauma kits and what should you carry? And you go on like YouTube, you see all these guys on Instagram, they're carrying like decompression needles for pneumothorax or uh, what is it, pneumothorax and
I honestly don't know.
well, the when basically when you get blood in the lungs and you get
Oh
air in the
yeah,
like you get when you have a sucking chest wound, they're like they carry the decompression needles, they carry chest gauze, they carry or chest tape, and they carry trauma gauze. And I was like, what do you think about those guys that carry like decompression needles? And she's like, honestly, if you don't know how to properly install, how to properly put in a decompression needle, you know what a decompression needle is, right?
no, I don't.
So basically, a decompression needle is like a giant, it's a big ass needle, and the idea is that when somebody has like a pneumothorax or a hemostatic wound, well, basically when a lung is like sucking in blood and they can't breathe, the whole idea is that you get this big ass needle and you find the rib cage. You have to find a certain spot, and you stab the lung, and the air comes out of that hole, which is super super light. It's a life saving technique.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is.
Somebody who has a sucking chest wound and they're literally choking on their own blood. Yeah, but how many like Joe Blows have that type of training to where they have that knowledge of like, oh, this is how first of all, how can you tell that somebody has that kind of sucking chest wound? But so I asked her like, so what do you recommend? She's like, well, carry some trauma gauze, carry some gauze, some roll tape, like some roll, and tourniquet, and it's like a little boo boo kit. And that's honestly like what I'm gonna put in my trauma kit, just like boo boo kit. Put some gauze, some decompression, some trauma gauze, maybe a chest seal by Hyphen or what they call Hi-Fi, whatever. A chest seal would be good for just shutting off a wound. Now they make vented chest seals. Check him up on YouTube. His name is Skinny Medic.
Yeah,
That guy knows what he's doing. I really like the stuff that he puts out. Like he'll actually do like training simulations and stuff like that. I really like his stuff. But I think putting an EDC of a med kit is not a bad idea. You know, even if it's just like a little 99 cents Johnson and Johnson boo boo kit. I mean, because like how many times on the range did we see guys that had slide bite? You know, that that's having a little boo boo kit is a good way to go.
dude. So as RSOs, we're supposed to go on the range to tell people not to cross their thumbs if they are, but honestly, like whenever we're back there and we see it, we just kind of say to ourselves, well, he'll learn his lesson eventually, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
so we just kind of leave him there, and eventually we'll get a one or two that will come out with slide bite. But actually, surprisingly, most of the time they really don't come out with slide bite because they have their thumb really like low enough to where the slide doesn't bite them at all. So
Yeah, like about a week before I left, there was this one dude on the range. He cut himself bad enough to where like I had to shut down lane and put decontaminate. Like I'm pretty sure this guy needed stitches. Like
Oh yeah.
that's how bad of a slide body was. Like he was bleeding like profusely. But yeah, dude, like part of me like, dude, people need to learn how to shoot, you know. But then again, like that's kind of our job, making sure people don't shoot themselves. But we're not instructors, you know. Like we're
Yeah.
just there to make sure people are safe, and people want private lessons. Like get private lessons. We're not going to teach you how to shoot. You know,
Yeah.
that's what instructors are there for, you know. But you know, this new job is pretty cool. But I think um, EDCs is the idea of EDCs. You know, get training, medical training. What Lucas Botkin says, get training, save money, say get training. You know. Um, oh, did you see the video of him and
They put out a
Granddad?
video.
Yeah, they put out a video together, man. Like he was calling out these the people who are
He speeds up his
like
videos.
yeah, it's insane. Like, check it out. Like, Granddaddy posted a video. This goes out to Instagram for those of you who say he's speeding up his videos. And so what he did like a one shot, dropped the mag, loaded a mag, hit the hit the bolt, and then just did fire another shot, like 1.16 or something like that. And then like, but you were right. Like you see those bullets, just they come like a bat out of hell. You know?
Hell yeah, dude. Dude, the brass just flings out of his rifle. Like, come on, dude. Like,
Yeah,
like, do you think we won't notice?
yeah. But then like Granddaddy was like, "Oh yeah, this is for Instagram for all the guys that are saying he speeds up his videos." And I'm like, I don't know, man. If he speeds up his video, cool, his prerogative. But I mean, you'll get caught on it, right?
He may
But
show the right time on his shot timer, but whenever it's on video, it's doesn't matter exactly how fast it was sped up. It was just the point of fact is that he makes something that say he does a drill in like 5 seconds.
right,
Okay, and that drill in 5 seconds feels more like say cut in half, 2.5 seconds, right?
yeah,
It's like, come on, dude. Even like the more subtle ones, like say like it was like 4 seconds instead of you know 2.5. It's just the
yeah,
little subtle things, man. But honestly, I mean, if those two put out a video, will I watch the shit out of it? You bet your ass I will,
right.
because it has freaking Grantham in it, dude. And Grantham
Grant,
literally is to me, honestly, whenever it comes down to information and knowledge, I feel like he is probably the one that you should probably go to every single time. And it has nothing to do with his experience for being in the military. It's just the fact that he just shoots so damn much.
yeah. I mean, like when he'll do a review, like he'll be like, oh yeah, this CZP07, you know, I've only got 15,000 rounds through it. It's like how many guys out there will put more than 1,000 rounds in their weapon in the entire life of a weapon? You know, like, I think like that shows like you know like if you're putting in several thousand rounds just to test it out, then you know what you're doing.
Oh
My
yeah.
favorite my favorite instructor is like Warrior Poet Society and John from Warrior Poet, but I cannot like get enough of freaking Clint Smith from Thunder Ranch.
Yeah,
That guy,
dude.
he's like he's not a FUD because most of your FUDs are like you know yeah served in Nam, but they were like cooks. You know, like no, this guy was in the bush shooting NBA, and when he came back, he was a cop. So this guy has some serious like street creds, and his advice is like super. It's like basic. It's like, well, you're only in a firefight for as long as you have ammunition. Like I do not think about that, you know.
Mm.
And like, but I think that guy Clint Smith, he's legit. He's old. He's salty as hell, but he gives you some sage
And he
advice.
talks out of his throat too, so that's how you know he's absolutely 100% the real
Yeah,
deal.
he just like yells at you, and I want He does like so like Thunder Ranch is out in Oregon, but they also have like a subsidiary group in Texas, which I would love to take his pistol course in Texas. Cause it's like I think it's like in Cameron. I'm not sure where it is. Like it's in Central Texas. It's a several hours drive, but we should. I would love to go take his pistol course.
All
You
right.
know.
If we're shouting out some of our favorite instructors on YouTube, dude, bro, 100%. Lately, Sage Dynamics, he is the real deal, dude. Everything he has
Uh-huh.
said has been like on the money, and every sort of like testing he does, like for example, with his pistol red dots, he put an
Right.
RMR Type 1 and a Type 2 through hell. He would basically just run it 500 rounds. He would even, you know, loading around using the RMR itself on like a door or like a piece of wood or like a metal barrel,
Yeah.
and he would just beat the shit out of the optic. And then he
Yeah.
did the same as well for the Hollow Sun 507C, and dude, he was beating the shit out of that optic. The
So
glass
I've actually heard
broke.
really good things about the Hollow Sun for being a Hollow Sun.
So, straight up, Ray, the 507C probably has to be probably the best budget pistol red dot on the market, dude.
I honestly think I've heard really good things about it for being a Hollow Sun.
Hmm.
Like I
Yeah,
was called Poro Sun, but I've actually heard some really good things about it.
yeah. So the testing he put through it, dude, he did the same thing. He basically beat the shit out of the optic. He dropped the optic. The glass broke, but he
Right.
says that despite the glass breaking, he could still see through the glass, and the dot still held zero. So therefore, it is good to go in his book. And he says that he will continue to beat the shit out of that optic until it breaks.
Yeah, no, I think I love the loophole Dust Point Pro because it's got a wide window, but the Trigicon, I mean, it's just, you can't go wrong with it. But like, so like I've been hearing some guys talk about like I heard this one guy talk, like how people that do slide manipulations with an RMR, how you can actually knock off one of the posts for the on the pistol. Because if you think about it, yeah, that may actually make sense. You could actually knock off one of like the little posts, because you're just putting a whole bunch of pressure on that RMR, where it could just bounce off. But I don't know. It depends on what kind of gun you're shooting, you know. But um, another thing I've been seeing people beat up online are the owl, the cloud defense lights.
Dude, yeah, that video was
I would
so great whenever I saw
They're
that.
insane. They're just like smacking them on the floor, but they're supposed to be like indestructible. And I like them. I don't think I like him as much as a Surefire Scout, like the 600 M600, like with the 1,000 lumens. I really like that. But that the cloud, it's just got that pressure pad built in, and but it looks like a chode. But it's supposed to be indestructible. Like it's supposed to be indestructible with like a with how you do it. I want one, you know, but that's like on the last, like that's on the list of like things that I want to add to my arsenal, you know. But
Yeah,
going
man.
back, going back to the whole ADC discussion, if you're carrying a weapon, I honestly think the upgrades you should do, uh, sights and a light,
Yeah,
sights and weapon light. That's my two go-to. You know, forget the magwell, forget the trigger, forget barrels. Just stick with sights and light because everything else is secondhand. And you could honestly make the argument for not using sights. You can also make the argument for not using a flashlight. But I was testing it out like um, in the dark, like my Trigicon with that Surefire light. It works great. You just see black and you see light and you see the three green dots. I
yeah,
absolutely love it. But that's what I'm pretty happy with. I really like those. Um,
yeah.
but then yeah, but I'm thinking about getting a Surefire stiletto. I spoke about the last time. So payday, I'm gonna hit up my shop, the shop I work at, and um, get a stiletto because I see a
So,
lot of
so compared to like obviously our past jobs and then your new one, Is it more or less, they have the same stuff? Do they have more higher end stuff? Are they actually showcasing some things that, our past shop would probably never consider having on the floor? How is it?
So like it's really interesting because like it's high end, not as high end as your place, the clientele. Like the clientele that you deal with is a lot different than the clientele that I
Yeah.
deal with. But in terms of like volume, it's like 100 times better than our last job because I was literally like when I was training, I was literally um, showing a guy an HKP7, which an HKP7 is like it's a collectible gun at that point.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, in terms of like accessories, I mean, like the central location, it's insane what they have, man. Like they have at my location, we have like Franklin Armory, binary triggers, stuff like that. But at the central location, they have Surefire war comps. They have Dano defense compensators. They have complete lowers. They have everything you need to build an AR, like from start to finish, like Dano defense rails, Colt lowers, strip lowers. They have some poverty ponies, but um, it's a
Don't
lot
worry,
better.
we do too. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, dude? Honestly, for $30, yeah,
For
it's
30
all right.
bucks, for 30 bucks, it will 100% get the job done. But just do us all a favor and don't buy a $30 lower and then buy a $1,200 upper from Daniel Fence. That's all I gotta say.
I've seen people do that. Like they'll do like an MK18 upper on the poverty point. It's like, dude, have some decency, man.
like,
Um,
come on, dude. For like 30 bucks more, you could have gotten a blemished air precision. Come
oh,
on,
so
man.
speaking of error precision, like there's a website called Borderland B. Like it's like it's a website of they just talk about like cartels in Mexico. Like I love reading up on cartels. We'll have to talk about that one day. But
Yeah.
I was seeing some photos like of this engagement that happened between like Mexican special forces and factions of the CDN, the cartel, the Northeast Cartel of Mexico, and like they were showing photos of the dead of the like the dead cartel sicarios, and one of them like I just see his AR right, and you just see the giant A on the receiver for arrow precision.
Shit.
Like this narco was carrying an arrow precision rifle. I thought that was hilarious. But so another thing is, have you seen that photo circulating around about that AR-57 in Venezuela?
There's an what a air. So wait. What?
There's an AR-57 that was like photographed in Venezuela.
An AR-57? What is
You
like
Google it.
chambered in 5.7?
Yeah, it's got the you know who has one? Ethan has one. It's basically an AR-15 with the upper has a P90 mag on top, and it shoots and it's in an AR platform. Google it. It's insane. And there's
He
only one
has one of
company.
these?
Ethan?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has one. Like he brought it like when we were first opening up. He was shooting it with his wife and stuff.
Dude, what the fuck? Dude, this is dope as shit.
Right? Like
Dude,
so like you're seeing that photo right now, right?
yeah, dude. It looks
So
dope.
it's insane. Like I actually brought it up in my class. It's like first of all, like look at that rifle by itself. It's got a suppressor, right? That's cool. That's one thing. But it's got a Trigicon SRS on it. That's a $1,200
Hell.
sight.
Yeah, man.
And it's got a suppressor, and then it's got a how does if it was like an AK, sure, right? Those things get traded around, but how does an AR-57 land all the way in Venezuela? It's too. It's like saying how does like a 1937 Rolls Royce end up in the Congo? You know, it's
Dude,
it's so rare. Like, how does an AR-57 with a suppressor, and if you look closely on it, it's been three pinned. It's got the third hole. So
oh shit, man.
somebody, maybe one of the alphabet boys, one of the CIA guys, dropped that thing off in Venezuela, and
Oh,
was like,
dude,
"Have
hell
fun."
yeah, dude.
That's insane.
Like, basically, how would that work? So I guess the lower would just be the same, just a plain Jane,
Yeah.
AR
So
lower, and then just have the upper
it,
that actually feeds the ammo. Like, is that how that
it,
that
it
that would
works
work
like a
essentially?
5.7. You know, like the 5.7 that ejects underneath. So in that photo, another
Oh,
interesting
dude, that is dope as shit. Holy hell, Ray, dude.
it catches the spent brass in that in the empty magazine.
Oh
So
my god, dude, I'm gonna. Oh,
Ethan had it right. Ethan was there shooting at the end of the day, and what he did, he had like an old school Colt mag, like a metal mag, and he just emptied it. He just took out the spring and took out the lip, and it catches his.
dude,
So it's like
dude, that is so cool. Holy shit.
how did that end up in Venezuela, dude? We don't know.
Hell yeah, bro. But you know what? I'm with you on that same fucking boat, man. If it wasn't the CIA, dude, watch it be like some like DEA or like some other like weird fucking agency that we probably don't even know about.
Right, like the no, I mean my thoughts on it are is like that gun was probably stolen here in the States, made its way down to Mexico. Somehow, like weapons travel like money,
Oh
like
yeah.
weapons are a form of currency. You know,
Yeah.
my dad collected coins, and he had Spanish coins that had Chinese stamps on them. Weapons travel like money, so somehow that weapon ended up down there. I don't know how. We probably never will know how because there's no. I did a lot of research. I did some research into it, and it's really interesting. Like, how did that thing end up in Venezuela? You know, I don't know. It's interesting.
Hell,
It's interesting to consider.
we'll probably never know, dude. But you said your dad collected coins, cause that's crazy. Cause my dad also collected coins.
So yeah, what kind of coins do your dad collect?
A lot of American stuff, I believe.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of glad he did too, because like say for example, Ray, like like we actually do, and say like maybe 10 years or less, I actually get into some like boogaloo.
Hmm.
Honestly, having just silver coins, let's like so like for example, the Morgan silver dollar, like
Right.
silver probably will end up being, top-notch currency. That gold, ammo, you know, lower receivers even, just
Yeah.
anything that could be put to good use in a
The
Boogaloo
three
type
B
like
or the
like
four B.
situation. Like
Yeah.
like something like that could definitely help. So I'm actually kind of glad he did, but honestly,
Yeah.
we've been kind so like my mom and I though have been trying to convince him to like sell some of it. But
Yeah.
but but if he
I know the
does,
market for silver is pretty stable, but
yeah.
gold keeps rising. Gold is always rising.
Oh yeah.
But the four B's, it's booze, bullets, beans, bullion.
Mhm.
Like you get some booze, trade, get some can of beans, get some bullets, get some bullion,
Yeah.
trade. You know, I don't know like how it'll be like how these people like talk about the boo happening. Will it ever happen? I don't know. It might,
It may
but
or may not.
we don't know. Like this whole thing. People always talk about how like the Democrats and Republicans are at each other's throats, like gun control, like during the Obama administration. Honestly, with the way things are moving in people are moving farther and farther to the right and farther to the left, to where they're now like you have Beto O'Rourke. He openly said, "We're going to come and take your ARs. We're going
Yeah.
to take those." So people are honestly that type of mentality and that type of um, the feelings of divisiveness that are going on. I'm not saying that a civil war is going to happen, but I think that there is going to be an issue to where like there's going to be some sort of boiling off point, like to where people are just going to be so fed up they're going to be like, we're done, we're going to do our own stuff. I don't know. It all
Yeah.
depends.
So let's go ahead and transition into the debates last night. You watch any of it?
Not really.
I
Not to be honest.
so I did watch it actually. I watched it over football actually, which was kind of surprising on my end. But I think my dad and I we more so watched it because it was at TSU, which is literally a mile away from where you and I go to school at. which is
Yeah.
actually kind of crazy too because I heard they canceled all the classes at TSU, and honestly, good for them because if there was any class at all, dude, straight up, those kids would have gotten to class so late, and they probably would have left so late too, man.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Like they had to have like a Secret Service, all that stuff for like Joe Biden,
Oh,
and
yeah. And then
But
at the U of H though that day, I don't know if you were there on Thursday. No, I don't think so.
no, I wasn't. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
working.
So I was kind of wondering if they would have sent like some like spokespeople for various candidates over to the U of H, and I went to the student center actually to go pick up some T-shirts and whatnot for school pride and whatnot.
Yeah,
So and I did, and then I walk out and I see a lot of people wearing these like suits, like both men and women. So like I was like, okay, what the hell's going on here? And sure enough, apparently they were a part of someone's campaign. I don't know who it was though. My guess, because it was a mix of Hispanic people. I probably would have guessed if it wasn't either Beto, it was probably Julian Castro. So I
yeah.
don't.
So Julian Castro and Beto are like they're in bed
Oh
together.
yeah,
If
dude, they're fucking bunk buddies up there, man.
like they're gonna be like if first of all, who the hell is Julian Castro? Like he was a Secretary of HUD under the Obama
And
administration.
before that, he was the mayor of San Antonio. So he made a big jump, if you ask me.
That's a huge jump. That's like a 10-year career jump.
Hell yeah.
The only reason he was in Obama's career, HUD secretary is because he's Hispanic, and him and Beto, like Castro, has no experience whatsoever. Beto has no experience whatsoever. But you put those two and two together, they're gonna end up being running mates if it would ever get to that. But it's not gonna happen
No,
because Beto has put in too much stock on the Latino vote happening. And yeah, we saw an uprise. We saw
it
a
wasn't
uptick.
enough.
It was nowhere near enough because the majority of Latinos do not vote.
Oh yeah.
And you're well. I'll say I'm straight up Mexican American. Um, and I mean, my father was very active in politics. Like my father taught political science, so I am very conscious about who I vote for and why I vote for. But the majority of Hispanics don't vote. I don't know how you feel. You know.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Like whenever I took um, advanced placement U.S. government in high school, like they showed straight up stats that minorities just don't vote, and there's has to be some other like driving force to actually get them to go out and vote. But what stops them from voting? People say a lot of various things, such as like voter ID, this and that. And honestly, whenever it comes down to that, I feel personally, I believe if you have any sort of ID that says that you are American and you are registered to vote, something like that, it doesn't matter. Then
Hmm.
I think they should be able to vote, that day at the polls. Um,
Well, so like I'm actually anti voter ID
okay.
because that's a poll tax if you think about it, because you have to pay for your driver's license, correct? It's not free. So the Supreme Court, like in way back, no poll tax. It's illegal to pay to vote, and I view that as you're paying to vote. If they wanted to issue out like voter ID
Yeah,
cards,
so that's where I was sort of leaning at. So like how like obviously like okay, whenever I registered to vote. So you can register to vote legally at 17 years, 10 months in the United States. Um,
yeah,
and I feel like so obviously you know about the postcard they send in the mail, right?
not the what?
But the postcard that that that
Card?
uh that Harris County sends in the mail.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel if they had something similar to that with maybe like a picture of you on it, I think that would be absolutely perfect. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like yeah. But then again, like, what are our end goals? Like, are there people that will ever truly vote for our needs? I don't think so because
Yeah.
everybody's different. Everybody has. I mean, even with you and I, like our political beliefs are similar, but there's still some things that like we're not in agreement with.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
and that's absolutely fine. Like I feel though 100% though, Ray, going into 2020, like I'm gonna slowly but surely become, a single issue voter at that point. You know what I'm talking about? Especially with
yeah,
this rhetoric after watching the debate last night, how Beto O'Rourke is like, hell yeah, we're gonna freaking take your fucking AR-15 and your AK-47. Like,
yeah,
dude, straight up, if anyone actually owns a legitimate AK-47, then I want to meet them and I want to shoot their gun, because the way it is just it's literally what we call an AKM. They don't even know the proper terms anymore. Every
right,
every AK platform that we own as civilians is based off of the AKM. There's no more AK-47. If there
yeah,
were, they would probably be old, beat up, and hopefully full auto. So,
yeah, that'd be awesome. And most of your original AKs were just stamped together.
oh yeah.
Yeah. No, but I don't know. It's like, well, this like is this like I know for people like that like no compromise gun control, like, and even though they're like ardent anti-Trump, they're like, sorry, we're gonna vote for Trump. And it's like, well, I mean, you're kind of put in a hard place because it's like, first of all, this whole TAPS law or TAPS Act and this whole bump stock ban, this has all happened under a Republican administration.
Hmm.
So I mean, and if you think about it, like Republicans don't have your best interest because look at the Brady bill, look at the NFA Act, the Ronald Reagan assault weapons ban, like that happened under a Republican controlled House and a Republican presidency, and that's when they took away the right for machine guns. Because Ronald Reagan, the king of conservatives, said that no AK-47s should be used for deer hunting. You know, that's ridiculously
Yeah.
stupid. So people that say that the NRA, that the Republican Party stands for gun rights, yeah, the same way, but not really. I mean, sure, on paper, like rhinos, but they're anti-gunners. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll say this much too. If President Trump does win re-election, and to be quite honest, he probably will.
Oh,
There's
absolutely.
there's
There's 100% he's gonna win because there's no such thing as a one-term president anymore.
Yeah, it takes so many factors. And like if you look back, so who was the last like legitimate president to go up against someone else and not a third party like George H.W. did with Ross Perot and actually lose after one term? Was it uh, Jimmy Carter?
Carter was the last one-term president.
Yeah. And that's over 40, almost 50 years ago now, Ray. So so
Yeah, because
it's like unless if there's a third party influence, which there honestly there might be. Don't know. It's still
I
too early to
wouldn't I
tell.
wouldn't bet money on it though because the way it's set up is that even though you can be an anti ardent, you know, anti-Trump, you still have to, at the end of the day, you have to pay render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Same thing with the Democratic Party. Like
Yeah.
you have to get in party lines. Like the 2016 election, like Bernie Sanders was like, so he was so anti-Hillary and like, oh yeah, she's a career politician, but at the end of the day, Bernie Sanders, with all the momentum he drove, he had to concede and give Hillary Clinton, his nod. So
Yeah.
I wish there would be more I like Dan Carlin. He's a great podcast where he says the death of American politics is the political system, and
Oh
none of the
yeah.
founding fathers ever put stock in. They didn't believe in political
Oh
party.
yeah. It was in the fucking Federalist Papers, wasn't it? James Madison who basically wrote out against the two party system.
I think it was Thomas Jefferson,
It
but
may
one
have
of
been.
those.
Yeah. So, but the point though that I'm kind of getting into here is that I feel that if and it probably will happen whenever Trump does win in 2020, if there's any sort of like big turn with like gun rights, I feel the only way that can really happen is if something kind of happens on the national stage. And what I mean by that, I feel like the NRA needs to have another Cincinnati in like 2022. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like
Mm,
just have another annual meeting and have some group of members just storm there and just let the people know who are the members attending that this is what the NRA should be, this is what the NRA needs to be, and it needs to happen as soon as possible. Otherwise, our rights and liberties are going to be at stake. And
yeah,
unfortunately, as long as Wayne LaPierre is at the head, it's
yeah.
not going to happen. The
Of course not, dude. That guy gives himself like a $6 million salary, and it's
freaking
all
buying suits off of freaking membership money and shit. Hell yeah, man.
course. And the reality is that you have to keep in mind is that, we may be talking big game about our political beliefs, but 90% of people who are out there, like supporters of the NRA, they don't look past that. They're just like, oh, these dumb liberal Democrats, they're out to take away our guns. It's like, well, yeah, dude, but it's like fear the what's the saying that goes? Don't fear the sheep and wolf in sheep's clothing. Fear the it's not the devil you know, or it's the devil. It's not the devil you don't know. It's the devil you know.
Yeah.
Something like that. But it's like all these people like the majority like, oh yeah, these Democrats. I was like, I see all these bumper stickers says I'd rather be dead than be a liberal, and it's like, dude, you don't understand. It's like you can have liberal beliefs and you can still be pro gun.
Oh yeah.
The thing about it is that these people don't realize that the NRA doesn't truly care about their about gun rights. They're a
Yeah.
lobbying firm. They're a lobbying firm, and their responsibility is to the industry. So they're out there representing the industry, and
Yeah. They care about the dollar signs at the end of the day.
absolutely.
And and unfortunately they even try their best to alienate various gun owners who might not, politically align with various members. And that's where our own, implosion is going to happen as a whole entire community. And unless if we can fix that and actually let people know from any side, whether it be, left, right, up, down, that, you know, as long as we have, a thing in common and that's we believe in the Second Amendment, that's where we can really make a tremendous push for more gun rights. Actually have a chance to repeal the NFA, actually have a chance
That's
to
not
repeal
gonna
the
happen. Honestly,
GCA, and actually
because
at the end of the day have a chance to repeal the Hughes Amendment, right? That's what we need to eventually get to, and it's going to take a long time, I think, before we can actually do
very
that.
time. I would love to see the repeal of the NFA. I'm all for that, but it'd take a mountain
Even
of
though that law is extremely unconstitutional because you are taxing a right, which was proven with poll tax, as you brought up earlier, it's still going to take a while. Unfortunately, it needs to have a direct court case. I think if there's going to
it's
be
an
any sort of
interesting
change.
interesting point. Taxing a right.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, absolutely. But I think it's interesting to see what would happen. Honestly, I feel like something big would have to happen. But you know, my bet is going back to it all. Like my main concern is like I just want to be left alone. I want to have good friends. I want to worship my God. I want to have time with my family. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to stand up for what you believe in.
Oh yeah.
And I hate the movie The Patriot because the movie The Patriot is so historically inaccurate. Like it's laughable, like at how inaccurate that movie is. But there's just one scene I absolutely love. It's like when they have you seen the movie The Patriot?
No.
Oh my goodness, you need to see that, dude. It's like
Okay.
so watch it, but watch it with the intent of knowing that it's not historically accurate.
Okay.
It's written by a German. It's directed by a German, and he portrays the British as like marauding troops that just the pompous troops that just call the American peasants. And obviously, he's trying to steal the narrative of like making uh, the English have to be the bad guys. Well, the Germans were the bad, the Germans were Nazis. But anyways, there's this one scene in the movie like where this one where Heath Ledger he goes into a church and he's like, the Continental Militia is calling for reserve or calling for troops to volunteer, and then the Reverend like son, we are here praying for peace. And anyways, but then at the end, like as that scene ends, like he's you see like the Reverend walking away, and then he's like they're like, Reverend, what are you doing? And he says something I really love this line. He says, a shepherd must tend to his flock and at times fight off the wolves. And that's such a like a pie hitter, like that's such a cliche thing, like a sheepdog thing. Like, hey, that's so gay, but um, at the end of the day, like you have to have that mentality, like where you need to fight for what you believe, you know.
Oh yeah,
But it is what it is. Honestly, I'm just trying to live my life, enjoy it with my family and just be free, and that's what it's all about. Live to
yeah,
be.
and
But
unfortunately, we do have to. Well, not really so much unfortunately, but it is unfortunate that we have to turn away from a organization that has been around. The NRA has been around since like the 1800s. Yeah.
yeah, 1870s around there.
Yeah. It's so it's unfortunate on that end that we have to turn away from a gun rights group that claims to be one and actually go to other gun rights groups that are legitimately, lobbying to Congress and actually doing the good fight, like the GOA, the FPC, even the
Yeah,
American Suppressor Association,
I've
like
not heard of them. Look
the
them up.
ASA. So the ASA. I mean, they're always put in the fight about getting rid of the NFA, and
Which I would have been completely happy for the Hearing Protection Act.
yeah, we can totally get into that on another episode about how we had a Republican House, Republican Senate, and Donald Trump as president, and because of a shooting happened, they sat on their hands and took a shit, and they didn't pass the HBA. We could totally
Yep.
talk about that later, which
Yep.
is going to be really, really great because I will straight go into a grill session about that. I
No,
believe
and
that bill had about almost, oh, it probably had almost 100 co-sponsors, and
yeah,
they fucking sat on their fucking hands.
yeah, and I mean, it just goes to show, like, you can't trust a party system. Republican, Democrat, it just won't work. I think they've had their moments, like yeah, like the Democratic Party, like yeah, they signed the Civil Rights Act, under Lyndon Johnson, but they also sent us into a war in Vietnam that we had absolutely
No business.
no business in Vietnam. Vietnam was just a war for literally it made no sense. You ask guys that served in Vietnam, they're like, well, first of all, they're pretty freaking crazy because my dad was a Vietnam vet. He had some insane ideas, but most of these guys like they had no idea what they were fighting for, and like same thing with like Iraq and Afghanistan. Like right now, if you would have said in 2001, like, hey, let's have peace talks with the Taliban, you would have been called a traitor. You would have been hung up. You would have been ostracized from your community. But that's exactly what our government is doing right now. They are literally sitting down and having talks with the Taliban, and not only that, but our president was inviting the Taliban to freaking Camp David a week after they had killed an American soldier in a bomb attack in Kabul, Afghanistan. Like you talk about like being a quote unquote tough president that Trump likes to tote, and he's inviting the Taliban. Absolutely not. Like that's a disgrace.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it was an absolute crime that Tulsi Gabbard did not make the stage. Absolute
I
crime.
absolutely think that she's
Because
awesome.
because because she's the one. I mean, her and the mayor from Indiana, Buttigieg, they were the only veterans to hold a place on that stage for the debates. And
Didn't
and
Buttigieg? was there though, no?
Saying?
Gabe Buttigieg was there, right?
Yeah, so he's essentially the only veteran to hold a stage, or to hold a spot on the stage. Uh,
Yeah.
but it was him and Gabbard, and Tulsi Gabbard. She's so against war, and that's something I extremely appreciate. And then whenever she didn't make the debates, this is the crazy bit. So going on Kamala Harris, like, so her supporters straight up, holy shit, Ray.
No, my chair is super squeaky.
Okay, so oh my
I'm
god,
not
dude,
my
it straight up
computer.
sounded like someone was like dying.
Yeah.
So, okay, so anyways, as I was saying though, so Kamala Harris's supporters though on Twitter, whenever Tulsi Gabbard did not make the debate, like they were like celebrating. They were like down with the anti-gay Democrat. It's like, what? Like, are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
just because she called out the one that you're supporting is suddenly like she's this like Russian asset. They even called her a Russian asset too. And it's like, okay, dude, so why are you so against her? Like, like, do you really think she was a plug by the Russians? Like, straight up, admit it. And it's like they will just spew so many falsehoods about her, and it's like she just wants to have this own vision that she believes is, the right vision, right? And that's why, honestly, whenever it came down to any sort of support from me for a to support a Democratic candidate, it probably would have been her. If there was a primary today, I probably would have probably voted for her, honestly.
Well, my big thing was what was the name of the mayor, the governor of Montana?
Oh, homeboy, yeah. So even on Twitter, dude, after the debate last night, people were like, man, after watching like these first two or three debates or whatever, people were like saying like, honestly, the only candidates that made sense were Tulsi Gabbard, Marianne Williamson, and then the governor of Montana.
Yeah,
Those were the
Steve
only
Bullock.
three candidates that actually made sense, apparently, and that's sad.
So, so the thing about Steve Bullock is that this guy is a Democrat, but he was in a major like you think about like what is a like anti-government state than Montana or like Wyoming, like those northern states, like where people are just like in the woods living on by themselves. This guy is a if this would have been like 2016, this guy would have if it wasn't for the big machine that is like the DNC or the RNC, if it wasn't for these big machines, like that you have to go with party politics, I feel like this guy Steve Bullock would have been an amazing presidential candidate because the idea that he is a Democratic governor and a Republican in a deep red state, and people support him, shows that this guy is he knows what he's doing. You know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and and unfortunately, I mean, when you saw who was in the middle of the debate stage yesterday, it was Joe Biden in the middle because he leads polls. Right by him was Warren, and then Bernie Sanders.
Well, you know that Warren was a professor at U of H, right?
She went to the U of H, yeah, but she also called it a small commuter school. Whenever that small commuter school today is actually a Carnegie Mellon, you know, a research university now, and it's
Where
like
Tier One. Yeah.
and it's like why not just say what it is. Instead she's trying, so she labeled the U of H as a small commuter school, okay, and then she uses that to vie for support from people who are like, oh well, she went to this commuter school for just like what it was like back in the day, it was like $50 a semester, she said.
Yeah,
It's like okay, so just say it what it is. It's the University of Houston before they got huge, okay?
yeah,
And
because yeah, like 30 years, 20 years ago, U of H was like kind of like your second choice, but now U of H is like is really coming up there because like we're Tier One, but we're a research school now.
yeah,
Like not only that, but we're about to open up a medical school.
yeah, we finally got
You know?
approved by that through the Texas legislator,
Yeah,
and all that. But But in the middle of the stage, though, I mean, when you have Biden in the middle, and then next to him are Warren and then Sanders, I mean, it shows you exactly which direction that the Democrats are going in. I mean, it's definitely leaning more left. It's more progressive. They want
Yeah,
someone like Bernie Sanders to win or someone like Warren to win because they have a very progressive, you know, campaign and a very progressive mindset on how they think that the country should be run. So when you try throwing in someone like, say, uh, Bullock from Montana or someone like Tulsi Gabbard, it's it may appeal to moderate voters who might be in the middle, but is that who they really want those votes for? They want the
no,
far
because
left votes.
yeah, the majority of like your Democrats today are becoming more urbanized. You know, they're urbanized voters. That's what they are. But like
Oh
because
yeah,
I grew up in South Texas, and I can tell you that the Rio Grande Valley, it since the 1950s, since the Kennedy elections, has always traditionally been a Democratic stomping grounds. But the thing about it is, if you look at South Texas, it's a very rural area, and you have like Congressman Henry Cuellar, the guy that used to run my district. He is extremely educated. He has a PhD and a JD, but he also has support from the NRA. Not that I care about that, but it shows that this guy has bipartisan. He works with both aisles. So what I'm trying to say is like that the Democratic Party is fastly, I wouldn't say slowly, but they're fastly losing touch with rural America because they think of people in rural America as a bunch of backwood hicks that don't know anything
good
and
old Billy Bob and Leroy out in East Texas in the damn woods, right?
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some bubbas out there that
Oh hell yeah, man.
but the reality is like just because you come from a humble beginning doesn't define who you are. And I think that's what the Democratic Party is losing. They're losing touch because originally the Democratic Party was an agrarian. People say it was a slave party of slavery. Is like, yeah, but things have changed. I wouldn't call it that nowadays. But
Yeah. Like, so I titled this episode of the podcast Saint Tropez or Tropez because Post Malone dropped a new album, and that's one of the title of his songs. And if you go, like whenever you view like his personal life tab on Wikipedia, he says
yeah,
that JFK is probably the best president to ever live, and he says the reason being is because he was willing to expose a lot of the corruption within the U.S. government.
well, so like that's one thing to add to the conspiracy file. I mean, like,
Hell
oh,
yeah, man.
he said, let's get rid of the CIA.
Dude, hell. I
But
mean,
at the same time, he was the one who started out with saying that like let's he under his administration was the SEALs were founded. Um, my honestly, my personal pick is one of the live was also the shortest president is James Andrew Garfield.
really?
This guy, yeah, dude, like he was only in office for like he was killed, he was assassinated.
Oh,
But
yeah. Didn't he have
this was
that long, speech whenever he got elected, and then someone just, like, shot him, and then he, like, died of, like, pneumonia from the shot or whatever?
he died. Yeah, he died. No, I think I forget the name. Yeah, but he was shot. He was shot in the gut. But what was extremely important, like this guy was a Civil War general for the Union, and he actually appointed Frederick Douglass, of all people, as part of his cabinet. So you're talking about a person who was way beyond the years, like in the 1880s, 1870s. He had Frederick Douglass, an abolitionist on his platform. And there's a good article that was read that's like as I read, it's James Garfield, the greatest president that never was. I mean, if this guy would have been elected, like or this guy would have lived,
Yeah.
time would have known. But
Yeah, and then I
uh,
know like a lot of like various like historians, I guess, if they were to list like their top presidents, I mean, I believe almost every one of them choose Lincoln, obviously.
yeah,
And
you
obviously,
can't go
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, that's for good reason too, I mean, obviously with like, Emancipation Proclamation, actually getting the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, ratified. and all that jazz. Even though weren't those amendments ratified after he died?
Yes,
Yeah,
he was killed slow, like, or I think he 13th was just added and then he was killed, if I'm not mistaken, but he didn't get to see it through.
yeah,
Like he was killed. But I mean, Lincoln is just a great president because he was a master politician. But for me, my favorite president is Johnson. Lyndon Johnson is one of my favorite presidents just because he was a warmonger. But he was a great president. He was a good politician.
yeah,
This guy Johnson apparently had such a big dick that he would like he would just whip it out and like start like if he didn't like you, he would be on the White House lawn in the Rose Garden. He'd be talking to you, just whip it out and start peeing in front of you just to show his dominance over you. You know, but he was a good president. He saw Vietnam defeated him, and he's like, I'm not gonna seek re because it just defeated him.
yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me though about so I personally think like honestly my favorite president is Harry Truman, without a doubt. Um,
Who?
Harry
Truman?
Truman. So my dad told me a story about what he did. So while he was president, apparently his daughter performed over at some music hall in New York. I think it was Carnegie Hall, and
Yeah.
she performed there. And then there were various reviewers at her performance, and then one of the reviewers gave her a pretty average or kind of almost
Oh
bad
man.
review. And my dad was telling me that like Harry Truman just wrote this letter to this guy, and he called him various names, called him a low life, this and that. And I'm like, you know what? I wish we had that today. And he's like, yeah, in some cases I wish we did too.
Yeah.
Because dude, that right there, I mean, that just shows the commitment that he is being a parent and the commitment that he is to serving, as president, right? So that's why I think Truman is to me personally my favorite president. He might not be the best president like ever,
No.
but he's
I
my
don't
favorite president for sure, without a doubt.
Worst presidents, that's another list. Like worst presidents, Andrew Jackson,
Andrew
Woodrow
Johnson,
Wilson. Who?
The guy after
Um,
Lincoln who didn't get shit done and almost got impeached.
well, not just Andrew Johnson was such a horrible, horrible president because federal Reconstruction from 1865 to 1877, I honestly believe that race relations are a horrible mess because of what happened after Reconstruction. Because federal Reconstruction was so poorly managed that Andrew Johnson basically just like let his pals run the government for him
Yeah,
and they ruined it. The South was ruined because of this guy. But that's another thing that we can talk about, like race relations.
yeah,
But I mean, it's insane. But all right, well,
yeah. We're over an hour into this, almost an hour and a half, right? So I'll go ahead and cut off the stream right here in the
all right,
recording.
man.
So,
Don't
uh,
tomorrow. I'll see about like doing like the Instagram.
yeah, just do it whenever you want, man. I have to watch this video whenever I can, and see if I do need to make some edits to it. Otherwise, I'll just upload it. You want to shoot for some time in the middle of the week again?
Yeah, yeah. I'll let you know next week. Like my days off are Monday and Tuesday,
Okay.
so we can shoot something then,
Yeah.
and then like talk about that later. But
Yeah, man, that's all good. So